All right, guys, I'm going to go through this inverse trig derivatives. I'm making you this screencast, okay, because I don't think we're going to have time to get to this in class. So this whole section really isn't anything new except these 6 inverse trig derivatives in this blue box, which you need to memorize, unfortunately. Sorry, Davis. There's nothing different about the actual derivative rules. We're still going to be able to do power rule, product rule, quotient rule. We just have these extra 6. You already memorized sine, cosine, tangent, secant, cosecant, and cotangent, but now you've got to memorize the inverse trig derivatives as well. So let's do a couple of examples. This first one says 4 inverse cosine of t minus 10 times inverse tangent of t's. Remember, constants just get kind of carried along when you take the derivative. So the derivative of 4 times inverse cosine is just 4 times the derivative of inverse cosine, which happens to be negative 1 over the square root of 1 minus t squared. I know they're ugly. They're just awful. The derivative of negative 10 inverse tangent is negative 10 times 1 over 1 plus t squared. Where did these come from? They came from the blue box up here. Okay, not anything new. We can combine these inverse trig derivatives with, I'm going to change these to x's, function rules that we already know, like the power rule and the product rule. So this one is this part B here. I've got the square root of z. I'm going to make that an x. But instead of writing the square root of x, I'm going to write it as x to the 1/2 times inverse sine of x. Okay, and I'm going to try to keep that on this screen there. Okay. So we got to use a product rule. We've got a u and a v. That's right, Davis. I changed colors. And the derivative of x to the 1/2 is 1/2 x to the negative 1/2. Keep the inverse sign. Plus, keep the x to the 1/2. The derivative of inverse sign is 1 over the square root of 1 minus x squared. You don't have to simplify. You can leave it just like that. Okay? No problem, right? Nothing new, nothing scary. This little white box about alternate notation, okay, you probably won't even see this, but just know that that sign to the negative 1, which by the way, that's not really an exponent, that means inverse. You might sometimes see it as arc sign, inverse sign, okay? They mean the same thing. Okay, look at this one. Don't like W's, I'm going to make it x. F of x is cosine of inverse sine of 5x. This is composition. Yes, this is a peanut butter M&M. Cosine of blop. Okay, the derivative of cosine of blop is negative sine of blop. Okay, times. Now we need the derivative of the blop. The derivative of inverse sine, you can go back up here to your blue box if you need to, scroll up. Okay, is 1 over the square root of 1 minus x squared. So the derivative of inverse sine of blop is 1 over the square root of 1 minus blop squared. You must be careful to put the 5x in parentheses. If you write 5x squared, that is not the same thing as writing 5x in parentheses squared, right? This means 25x squared. This one, you didn't square the 5, so be very, very careful. Okay, and then we need to multiply by, right, the derivative of the peanut butter part, the center, the derivative of 5x, which is just 5. Okay, let's look at another one. Y equals 7 times inverse tangent of 8x. Okay, the derivative of inverse tangent of blop is 1 over 1 plus blop squared. So the derivative here of 7 times inverse tangent is 7 over 1 plus blop squared times the derivative of the blop. Okay? Instead of doing 7 times 1 over 1 plus 8x squared, I just put the 7 on top. I hope that's okay, because I did it. Okay. We'll do a couple more and then we'll take a break. We've got y equals inverse cosine of 6 over x, okay? Which if you want to, think about this as inverse cosine of 6x to the negative 1. Okay? Okay, let's see. I'll go up here for a minute. The derivative of inverse cosine is negative 1 over the square root of 1 minus x squared. Negative 1 over the square root of 1 minus x squared. Okay? We don't have just an x. We don't have inverse cosine of x. So we're going to write this as a blob. Negative 1 over the square root of 1 minus blob, 6x to the minus 1 squared. Now times the derivative of the blob, and the derivative of 6x to the minus 1 is negative 6x to the minus 2. Okay, if you want to combine and make both of those positive, you totally can. Totally all right. Okay. Natural log of, shouldn't scroll away from that yet, inverse tangent of 4x to the 4th, another peanut butter M&M. Natural log of blop, the derivative of natural log blop is 1 over blop. Times the derivative of the blop. What's the derivative of inverse tangent of blop? It's 1, what are you doing? It's 1 over 1 plus blop squared. Then times the derivative of the blop. What's the derivative of 4x to the 4th? 16x to the 3rd. Good? Okay, we're going to stop right there for now. Another video is to come. Stay tuned.